Welcome to Thursday night YouTube Live with independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator Teresa Harper. And I'm located in Oregon in the United States. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. And we will get started here in just a minute or two. As soon as we see who's on and get that going. There we go. Let's see how this goes, and if it, yay, came up with the chat right away today. Yay! That's not always the case. Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Tracy. Welcome. So I hope everybody had a good day. I had a fairly chill day. Had the little guy at home yesterday and today as he was not feeling well. So it was a pretty chilled out day. Yesterday he was feeling okay and probably could have gone to school, but then he overdid it, and today he felt pretty puny. So anyway, yeah, and I didn't get outside in the sunshine. Tomorrow, that's on my list. I'm hoping for sunshine tomorrow. They say it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow, so we're gonna hope for that. I got some things to do outside, and in the meantime, though, we're gonna make ourselves a little shaker treat box, and we'll be using the loose Valentine's assortment for those shaker bits, and we're going to be using the Endless Love dies, and then we will be using the Happy Valentine's Day stamp, which is from Valentine Kisses. So Endless Love didn't have a sentiment that I wanted to use. There is a stamp set that coordinates with this Endless Love dies, and it can be purchased in a bundle. But these were not sentiments I wanted to use, and these were the only two that would really have fit on my box. Today and Always and Hugs and Kisses, and that's not what I was going for. So I pulled in the Happy Valentine's Day sentiment from Valentine Kisses. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. This is going to take a little bit because shaker cards in general usually do. Real Red is the only ink we'll be using today. And then we've just got a couple of pieces of cardstock here. So we've got a piece of Poppy Parade, and this is cut at, oh, my window sheet went flying. Let's not lose that. This is cut at, oh, that's not good. I didn't write that down. Okay, let me see if I can find my measurement. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. Let's go with this. Oh, yeah, it does, because I need to know what to score it at. Hopefully I didn't throw that piece out. That's why I wanted, oh, shoot. Okay, let's see. This is going to be a problem. Well, you know what? We'll just make it work. Because I had a scrap piece of paper here where I had everything written, and I think I might have thrown it away thinking, oh, I don't need that anymore. And now I can't find it. So I thought I wrote everything on here, and I did not. All right, well, it's okay. We'll measure, and we'll make it work. Okay, so this piece is 4.5 by 8 inches. Okay, 4.5 by 8 inches. Let's see if I can remember the measurements. We're going to score this on the 4.5 inch side at let me see, at 1/4 and 3/4. Okay, 1/4 and 3/4. And we're going to flip that 180 degrees and do it again at 1/4 and 3/4. And then on the long side, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch. And three and 3/4. So 1/2 and 3 and 3/4. And we're going to flip that 180 degrees and do 1/2 and 3 and 3/4. And if those measurements are right, I should have exactly 1/2 inch left in the middle. And I do. Okay, so again, we're going to go over those measurements again. Okay, so that is a 4.5 by 8 inch. I'm going to write that down here. 4.5 by 8 inch cardstock. Score on the 4.5 inch side at 1/4 and 3/4. And then score on the 8 inch side at 1/2 and 3 and 3/4. Okay, so here's our template. Well, hello, Nicole. I am so excited that you are joining me from Perth in Australia. That is so awesome. Glad to see you on here. Okay, I'm going to guess this is your first time watching. I'm so happy that you're here and I hope you enjoy this. So we're going to go ahead, and I find it easier when you have these 1/4 inch scores to just put your thumbnail along that line and score the 1/4 inch first. I'll pull that up. Now you could actually make this a little bit wider because you do have a little bit of paper left. Well, no, because it's this end. So no, you can't. Not make this really work well so that you can get 2 out of a sheet of cardstock. So anyway, we're going to always try to maximize my cardstock. And really, this 1/4 inch section here, we're going to cut most of that off. It's just a lip for the side of our box so that we don't have any gaps when we close the lid, because I don't like that. Now, you could actually not put that 1/4 inch on there at all, but I don't like the gap, so I like to add it when I'm designing. Okay, so we're just going to burnish on all of those score lines. Okay. And both ends of this cardstock are exactly the same, but you do need to, at this point, decide which is going to be your top and which is going to be your bottom. Doesn't matter, they're identical, but we're going to take this and we're going to put it in this direction. I'm going to make this my top, and then I'm going to take a piece of the Made with Love Designer Series paper, and I'm going to, this piece is cut at 2 7/8 by 3 1/8. Okay, it needs to be portrait, however you want your, if you have a directional paper, it needs to be portrait. Okay, so we've got that. Now I'm going to temporarily tack this in here. I don't want this to stay for the moment, but I need it to sit there while I'm doing my die cutting. Wow, I can't find any of my temporary stuff. What the heck? All right. Oh, there it is right there. I went to pull out my other stuff, and there it is. Okay, I'm just going to use some temporary Hermafix, and I'm just going to put it in the 4 corners. That's all I need. just enough to tack this down where I want it to be. Okay. And while that's there, then I'm going to go ahead and get my die from the Endless Love dies. And I'm going to take this die and I'm going to cut this. Okay. And then while you're at it, take this piece and a piece of basic white, this die and a piece of basic white, and cut one of those. Okay. I've already done that, so we're not going to, I don't need to do that again. So I'm just going to take and put this on here on my cutting mat. I've got plate 1, plate 3. I'm going to center this up, get myself some Post-it tape, or I guess in this case it's mint tape, and put this on here how I want it. Oh, nope, not this one. Whoops. I actually want this one. So we're going to put this on here. So you need to run this one through twice, once with white and once with your box. Just get that lined up how you want it. I'm going to keep that in place there. Okay, I know I had that top plate. Oh, there it is right there. Oh my goodness, I'm all discombobulated for some reason. Okay, now let's bring in our die cut machine. And we will roll this through. Now you're cutting through a piece of Poppy Parade cardstock and the designer series paper. So this is a detailed die. Go ahead and roll it forward and backwards just to make sure that you have it how you need it. Okay? And then at this point, you would grab a piece of basic white and run this through again. Okay? But to save us some time, I've already done that. So we're just going to put this away and then we'll have it. Okay. All right. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this off. And remember, I just used temporary adhesive. So I can just pull this right back off gently. Okay. And I'm going to set that aside. And then because it's temporary, I can just take my fingers and rub that off. And then I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to glue right there anyway, so in the end, it won't matter. But I do have to do some cutting and scoring here. So I'm going to go ahead and give these score lines another quick little crease just to make sure they're still nice and crisp. I'm not using my bone folder, just making sure that they're working properly. And then we're going to get out our snips here, and I'm going to snip up on all of these little lines here on the side. Okay, let's cut all of those. And I always cut to the side on the long rectangle. I always cut the score line off. Okay, so here I'm going to take, and I can remove these little pieces here. I don't need those 1/4 inch scores there. Okay, I'm going to repeat that on the opposite side. Okay, so I'll trim off those 1/4 inches on all of those tabs. Give those a quick little angle cut. which I should have done on the other side as well. So I like to do them all at the same time here. Oops. And then let's go ahead and trim these up. We have just a little bit of trimming left. And then we'll be ready to start putting our box together after we decorate that part of it. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead here. Get rid of all these little trimming pieces. All right, so we know this is the top of the box. So these 2 1/4-inch pieces here we don't need. We need to keep it on the bottom of the box, but we don't need it on the top. So we're just gonna take, and you could put this in your trimmer if you wanted it to be super precise, but it really doesn't matter. Nobody looking at your box is gonna go, oh, she cut that a little crooked. And if they are, then they aren't worthy of a homemade box that you put a lot of time and effort into. Okay, so there we go. So we've got the top. Now I need to put a little finger tab in here. So I'm just going to grab a retired punch. This is a 3/4 inch. And on this little tab about halfway, I'm going to line that up pretty much with this center point there on the heart. Okay. Then I'm just going to take just like less than a third, just to give myself a little finger notch. All right, now you'd think this is ready to put together, but it isn't quite. Now we need a piece of window sheet. All right. And we're going to put our window sheet on the back of our designer series paper here. Okay. And so I'm just going to take some liquid glue here. Not this one, because this one squeezing makes my fingers hurt sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get, oh yeah, but not too thick. I'm just going to run a real thin bead of Tombow multi-purpose glue there. Okay. And just a little bit there. So just like that. I'm going to take my window sheet. I've cut this window sheet at 2 3/4 by 3. It's just a little bit smaller than my designer series paper. That way I didn't have to be exactly precise putting it on. I just want to cover that window. Okay. So I'm just going to give that a little press. And then I'm going to set this aside for a minute to dry. Okay. Now I also have a piece of vellum. All right. And this vellum is cut at the same size as my designer series paper. Okay. So this is 2 7/8 by 3 1/8. And this I'm going to put on the inside of the top of my box. So again, I'm going to take a little bit of glue here. And I'm just going to put my vellum right in that section there. Okay, so we've got that. Give that a good press. All right, now I'm going to flip this over. And now is when we're going to start thinking about putting this together. So before I do that, though, I need to make my shaker part, right? So we're going to take this, and you'll see by the way I cut this, I'll know exactly how to line this up. Oh, yeah, this way. So it fits my heart perfectly there, right? But I've got to have something to hold my shaker bits. So I'm going to take the foam adhesive strips. You can find these in my online store. And I'm just going to take a strip here. And how did I do this? I'm going to put it around here on the top. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and I'm going to snip this because I find it to be easier. I'm going to snip that off. Then I'll butt this right up to that because you don't want any holes there. Otherwise your shaker bits will run out. Okay? You want to go just outside the cut line, but not too far. Otherwise your shaker bits will not show because they'll be hidden outside. So now I'm going to take that, cut it off. I'm going to go ahead and use this one up here. I'm going to butt these two together like that. Give them a good press as I go so they stick well. Okay, and we're doing good. Okay, so now we just need another small piece. Not too much. Hopefully I didn't cut it too short there. I'm going to butt that one up against that other one so nothing can escape. And then I got that one a little further out there than I want it. So let's run that in there and give that a little snip, and those two are going to butt right up to each other. Now, notice I have not removed my backing sheet there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to take a little bit of embossing powder, and I'm going to run this in here. To get off any static on that, and then I'm going to run it right here. Okay. All right. So now I've got that. All right. So now we're ready to add our shaker bits and then add this in. So I'm going to grab my shaker bits. And I'm going to take some of these and I'm going to set them right in here, making sure they stay on the vellum. Okay. All right, so that should be plenty. Okay, so I've got that. This one wants to roll. Get up there. Okay, so we've got that. Now, we'll take our backing off of here. And then because I cut these together, these are going to line right back up. I just have to put this in. I don't have to worry about my edges. I can just focus on my die cut section there and make sure that all lines up. And then when I put it down, this is going to fit. And you know, I forgot to do it again. Before you do that, you should put extra adhesive strip there. I did that on my original too. And then I had to go back and do it this way, which can be done. It's just easier if you do it the other way. But I'm going to show you how not to do it. And when you're putting yours in, you should put your adhesive strips around the edges I'm just going to lift that up a bit just to give it some stability. Get off of there we go. And then I'll just give that a press down. So if you forget, like I did, no big deal. It's fixable. It's not that hard. You just got to shove it in the side. Make sure you take your backing off first. That's what I would say. And then shove this in here like this. Don't press it down till you don't have it showing out the sides. Now we've got that. You can tell it's totally much easier if you were to put this down first. But you know what? I did it on my original and I did it again. So it's okay. It's keeping this crafting real, people. Keeping it real. Yeah, Nicole, that's true. You can. What I don't like about doing that, though, is then my shaker bits tend to stick when I'm trying to put it down to the foam. So, okay. So now we have that. Now we're ready to put our box together. All right. So we know this is the top of the box. So these two flaps and these two flaps are going to fold up to make the bottom of our box. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to use some liquid glue and I'm going to put them on these 4 tabs. Okay, and then we're going to fold this tab in. Let's get that out of the way. I'm going to fold that tab in and square up that cut line to the score line. Hold that for just a second. And then I'm going to go over to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. Fold those up and square up those sides. And liquid glue doesn't dry instantly, but it does hold pretty well. So let's go ahead and we'll just keep going around. Get all of those up and squared. Okay, so now we've got that. A nice square bottom. And now I'm going to take my bone folder and give those a good burnish so that they will adhere nicely. All right. So now for the top of the box, let me pull this out. See what I meant by the quarter? This is just to hold this so that when this is down, I guess it doesn't matter being we're doing it this way. If you were tucking this in, you would want to do that, but we're good. Anyway, let's go ahead and put some glue on our tabs here. And I like to take this. I'm going to put my glue on my tabs. Got that there. I'm going to spread that out. I don't want it oozing. Okay. And then I'm going to take and put my top down over my box, lift up my side, pull my front down, pull my tab down, and then glue the side to the tab around the box top. Because remember, this is only paper. and it's all the same size. So in order to make sure that that top fits nicely, if you glue it this way, you won't have to worry about the top being too tight to go over the bottom because you glued it in order to fit. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that there for a second until it adheres nicely. Hold that, and then I'll grab that finger hole, and again, I'm going to give that a good burnish. All right. All right. Now, I like to take and come in on these box tops like this, and I'll give just a small little angle cut here toward the back so that that has a nice angle and doesn't get caught when I'm closing the box top. Just a small little angle will do. It doesn't need to be big. And then this is all going to close down really nicely and stay together. Okay, so we're almost done here. And you're probably wondering what's going to fit in this box. Well, what we have is we've got some Merci chocolates. I designed this to fit 4. Whoops, I just dumped those. That's not good. Oh well. Those out of the way for now. All right, so we'll go ahead and put 4 of these in here. And because we put the window in, you can see what's inside, but it's not super clear because I used the vellum for the inside piece. Okay, so we've got that. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to take that piece of white that we cut that made this piece, because remember, that's what cuts out of here. We used the outside piece for the shaker part, and then we're going to use this piece as decoration, and we're going to fit that right in here. This will also, if you get just a teeny tiny bit where you can see the dimensionals, this will help you hide any imperfections that you might have. So again, I'm just going to use some liquid glue. And you don't need a lot here. Just a few dots in these bigger sections and maybe a little bit on the edge. Just to hold this in place. It doesn't need a lot. And then we're just going to pop this right down in here. Put it back just where it came out of for cutting. Give that a little press. And I'm going to put a block on there, not this one for a minute, because I need this one to stamp our sentiment. Okay, so I'm going to take a strip. This is a 1/2 inch strip, a basic white, and this is about 3 1/8 inches. It just needs to be long enough for our sentiment, okay? So what I want to do with this is I'm going to take my Happy Valentine's Day, and I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to stamp this right there, okay? I'm not going to press too hard because this is a pretty delicate little stamp. And there is my sentiment. Now I wanted to make this into a tag, and I didn't want the tag to be just plain. So I took this tag, and it is not quite long enough, because you might be wondering, well, why didn't you just cut that? Well, it's not quite long enough for Happy Valentine's Day, so we're going to alter this because that's what I like to do when things don't work. I make them work. Okay, so we're going to bring in our mini. And I'm going to set this here. And I've got my plate 1, plate 2. I'm going to put in my Happy Valentine's Day here. Let's move that for a minute. Okay. And then we're going to take and put this like so. And that should pretty much straddle that sentiment. Okay. So we're just going to put that on there like that. I'm going to tape this piece down so it doesn't move there. Okay. Then I'm going to take my top plate and I'm going to put it just over, no more than halfway. Okay, I'm going to bring back in my machine. I'm going to hold that in place. And I'm just going to, really, I just want that rounded edge. So that's all I really need to cut. Okay, and by putting that plate only partial, it does a partial cut. Now, I could put that back into the machine and cut the back half, but I found an easier way to do that I didn't need to fuss with. So I'm going to bring in my 3 banner punch. And I'm going to stick this into the back here of the center part right there with the front up here outside of the punch. I'm going to pull that where I want it, line that up, and I'm going to punch it. So now I, in essence, have the same shape, but I've made it longer. Okay? You could do that by relining that up. Like I said, if you don't have both pieces or whatever, you could do that. But I found this the easiest way for me because I have them. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of the bubble bath. I think this is faux linen, bubble bath faux linen. Yep, bubble bath faux linen ribbon. I'm going to wrap this around my box. Okay. Bring this. Make sure that's not twisted. And then I'm going to tie this right here. That's not going to be long enough. Let me pull a little bit more. I like to tie off the spool so I'm not wasting. So we're going to do that. Just going to make a little loop here. Wrap this around. Make sure I don't twist the ribbon as I do it. Push it through. Making sure that my ribbon's all going the same direction when I pull it tight. Okay, and that's going to give me a nice bow. Now, I purposefully have left this loose. I don't want it to be super tight because I want you to be able to pull it off without having to untie it and be able to slip it back on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut this off now. And then I'm going to take some of the real red and white baker's twine. And I'm going to get a floss threader to make this easier for myself. So I just got this little floss threader. I'm going to stick this underneath my bow here. And I'm going to stick it through my tag. Stick my baker's twine through the loop of the floss threader and pull that through. Okay, then I'm not fighting it. And then we'll get this. Give myself enough to make a small little bow. You could just tie a knot here if you wanted to. I'm going to give myself enough to make just this teeny tiny little bow. Pull my ends till I'm happy with the size. Give that a good pull for the tightness. This one looks a little bit longer. Okay, let's do that. Get out of the way there. All right, there we go. We'll give this a little snip. And we have this now. And we can pull this bow if we want to move it over a little bit, we can do so. And then for the final, we're going to take those loose Valentine's assortment again. Put this away before it disappears. And I'm going to get some glue. And I'm going to put a dot here, a dot here, and a dot here. And I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. I'm going to pull out one of the bubble bath. Put it there. Hang on. And then I'm going to grab another bubble bath and put it over here. Like so. And then I'll grab a white one and put it right there. And then I like to take and put the cap back on my putty end and give those a little press. And there is our shaker treat box. Okay, now you do not want to adhere this to the box top, because if you do, then you won't be able to pull this off. Okay, so there we go. You've got a cute little treat box for someone special. And let's see, I'll go ahead and pull this one off. And there you have it. I hope you like that project for tonight. And I hope you'll give this a try. All right, everybody. Let me go ahead and put this back in here for a minute. You can take a screenshot if you so choose. There we are. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you. And Nicole, I hope you have a wonderful day. And everybody, I'll see you again next week, I hope. Remember, I'll be back here Tuesday night on Facebook with another live, and then I'll return next Thursday right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Thanks so much. Good night.